We're extremely pleased to be presenting our work on from Team Reflective Energy, which is quite indicative of what we're trying to do. The basic premise of our work is to get energy clubs at different institutions around the country to reflect on how impactful they're being on those campuses and how to improve their resources, or if they want to, and in ways that they might do that. So before we get into it really deeply with John, let me just quickly introduce the team here. Brilliant group of people. We've got Sustainable John Romankiewicz from the University of California in Berkeley, Mr. Davis Saltonstall from New York University, and of course, Mr. Sahas Singh from the Georgia Institute of Technology. My name is Parag Gupta. I'm at Northwestern University, and hopefully not there for too much longer. So before we get into how we approached this entire project, I want to invite each of these fellows to speak about the energy landscape at their particular institution and talk about how that's going to tie into their work or the work that we've done, and also about their future. So, John, you'll be first.
Right. So you guys can call me John or call me Susty for short, for Sustainable John. I would say. So I help run the Berkeley Energy and Resources Collaborative now, or BERC for short. Everyone in the room is familiar with that, as many of you attended the summit. And I'm also a dual master's student in Energy and Resources and Public Policy at UC Berkeley. And so BERC is a very large student-run club, and we have a lot of different programs to help basically connect students to each other and the broader energy community, to help educate them in energy and resource fields, and then to help them collaborate with each other. So we have really a wide range of programs. We have members from about 20 or more different departments on campus, and interdisciplinary nature of energy and resource problems brings us to find a lot of collaboration across campus as a solution to maximizing education for everyone.
Thanks. David.
Hey everybody, I'm Davis, coming from NYU, leading an organization called Earth Matters. So a sort of different community than what exists at Berkeley. It's sort of disparate. A lot of different groups that are doing many different things. And as part of my work with this fellowship, I was trying to bring together other organizations to focus more on energy, so that we could build an energy discussion at NYU that hasn't previously existed. Bringing together all of the sustainable initiatives, the business initiatives, and the engineering initiatives to have a collaborative discussion on energy. With this project, we've really been able to develop some best practices that are going to help NYU move forward.
What are you doing in the future?
Oh, future. I guess I'm an environmental studies and economics major, double major. Really interested in waste and energy. So right now I'm trying to kickstart a nonprofit social enterprise in waste management, and how that works in with energy and other environmental aspects. Awesome.
All right, thank you, Davis. So my name is Sahas Singh, and I'm a mechanical engineering major from Georgia Tech. I'm a sophomore, making me one of the youngest fellows, but it's great to be in front of you all and presenting here today. So my background, essentially, I grew up in Dubai, very kind of a place that was very kind of heavily dependent on oil and gas. Coming to the US was a big eye-opener for me. And I've really kind of become involved with the student energy movement while I've been here. And I'm great that's finally resulted in me being part of the Spark Fellowship. So currently I'm the VP of Operations for the Energy Club at Georgia Tech. The club was recently revitalized about maybe a year and a half ago, and it's really taken off. I mean, in August of 2013, we had about 30 active members. Today, we can say it's about 150, so it's really gone up in the space of a year. It's really becoming an organization that's having some impact on campus. We recently held our first Energy Expo, which was a huge success. We had some great speakers come down. And we, I guess, are probably following a similar model to what BERC is following, what BERC is. I think that's kind of the place we want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. We really want to make Georgia Tech the hub for energy in the southeast, and I think that's our clear goal. We have a great partnership with the Strategic Energy Institute at Georgia Tech, so that is. They like to think of us as their kind of student arm, and they kind of reciprocate with a lot of funding, and we kind of give back to them with our events and things like that as well.
Oh, back to me. So my name is Parag Gupta. I'm a final year PhD candidate in mechanical engineering at Northwestern University. I'm finishing up in April, actually. So I'm looking on to bigger and brighter things in the field of energy. I have a joint appointment at Argonne National Laboratory. So I'm very interested in vehicle technologies and energy relationships to those types of research avenues. So I hope to find myself in academia or working for the government, but as of now I have no concrete plan, which is not the best. But the energy landscape at Northwestern is fantastic. It's very big. It's not as brilliant perhaps as at the one at Berkeley, but it's very strong, and it stems from the Northwestern Energy and Sustainability Consortium, which is a group of student groups, of course, that are aligned with that area. But we're a little bit more loose in our affiliation. So we have things like the solar car team that's a part of that consortium as well, that may not necessarily fill out what the natural person might think about the energy space. But its organization is quite nice because it fits in a more global organization within Northwestern that deals with energy and sustainability. There's an institute there. It used to be an initiative, and it's translated over. And there's good things going on with Northwestern. The landscape is beautiful. It's the biggest city in the Midwest and benefits greatly from collaboration with places like Fermi National Lab, Argonne National Lab, and a plethora of institutions in the region. So that's kind of a brief overview of the energy landscapes that we have at our institutions and who we are as people. And now I'm going to turn it over to our fearless leader, John, that's going to talk more about the specifics of this project.
Right, so reflective energy. We want to have student energy clubs really reflect on the impact they're making on their campus and seek to hone that, improve it. So when we did some basically exploration about how we should go around tackling this problem, we thought, should we be a network of clubs? Should we kind of be a resource hub, a study of the different methods that clubs are using? And I think we've kind of landed between these second and third boxes, the resource hub and a study that looks at all the different methods that clubs can really use to improve their impact. So we wanted to look at developing some best practices to facilitate growth of energy clubs and how to make them more impactful. We wanted to use our own campuses as case studies and also just do some comparative analysis of energy clubs across the nation. So our plan really is built upon the fact that when you're starting a club, you really want to first make kind of a map of your university and region and understand what resources are already out there. You also want to understand what your student needs are. So what's the demographic of your students? Georgia Tech is mostly engineering school. NYU would have a completely different student demographic as would Berkeley. So you have to take that into account. What are students seeking to learn? And what are their needs in terms of potentially the job market or academic needs or mentorship needs or collaborative needs? Taking this all into account. So when you're starting a new club or assessing your existing club's impact, you want to think about these questions. How are we able to connect students with each other as well as with the broader regional energy community, which has a wide variety of organizations, and students should really be aware of that ecosystem. And then how can they learn more about that in addition to connecting with it, and then maybe kind of a third level, actually collaborate with some of those companies or with each other. And so once we've developed some tools for assessing your club's impact, and then once you're done with that and you want to increase your impact, we've come up with basically ideas for how you can expand your programs, the activities and events you do on campus, and then methods for improving the organization. So you want to do all these new activities. How are you actually going to do that? You're going to require human resources and maybe financial resources, maybe some IT resources. So we've done in-depth case studies of both Berkeley and Georgia Tech to give people an idea of how clubs out there do it right now, so that people can gain ideas from that and potentially apply them where appropriate. Hand it over to Davis. Continue.
Okay. So one of the ways that we implemented all of those different project pieces was through the creation of a website to store all of these different resources and case studies that we've developed over the course of the past 6 months, half a year. Yeah. So the first part of our website that we developed was the club profile, really to develop a picture of the landscape at different universities for specific clubs that are organizing around energy issues. Talk a little bit about the club itself, the history, and then also provide a little bit of reflective questioning inside their own profile to figure out what their goals are for the future, and allow them access to this living resource of other clubs on the same web page. Next page. To continue through some of these profiles, we've done case studies at Berkeley, Georgia Tech, Northwestern, NYU, and a bit of Duke as well, just to figure out what some of these other campuses look like. We've delved into their club structure, how they run their organizations, looked at a bunch of different organizational strategies, specifically comparing mostly Berkeley and Georgia Tech, and showing off those differences so that other people can breeze through their strategies and figure out how to maybe mimic them or build off of the potential weak points. Only with Berkeley and Georgia Tech, they're both very strong clubs, so there aren't that many weak points. Final part of our website implementation is the database of all of the club activities that John was talking about. So in addition to the profile building and how to develop your best practices, we were trying to figure out a way that we could make different events replicable around the country, and allow students to share the energy from these different events that they've planned, and build a collaborative movement that shares a lot of the same pieces. So when you do something well at one campus, you should be able to do it the same at another campus. So if you have a really interesting activity at your university or within your energy club, you can post it to the Spark Clean Energy website. All of these resources that we've developed are open or when we publish them, and so it'll be a collaborative development process. Hopefully that we can work with Spark to make sure it has a longevity.
So I think our website's great, and our Weebly kind of gives a great insight to what we've done and what kind of resources we do provide to clubs, but we really felt that we needed something more robust to really back that up. And that's where the white paper came in. So we've put an online white paper that's accessible through the Spark website, and it essentially goes through 6 different sections. And it essentially goes into much more depth than what our Weebly pages go into. So the first one is mapping out your university's energy landscape. So that's looking at how what's your student demographic like? Is it a Georgia Tech? Is it an NYU? Is it a Northwestern? Is it a Berkeley? Is it a combination of both? It's also kind of looking at what resources that you have on campus. Is it a research-based university? And then that kind of transitions into the second section, which is identifying your campus needs with respect to energy. So what do students want what do students want? What do they want to learn about in the energy space? And what would an energy club kind of provide to them? and that really ties in with the university's landscape. We have a little section in there about starting a new energy club as well. So that's about kind of looking at ways to really get yourself started. I know a lot of people who want to start an energy club, but they perhaps don't feel that they have the resources to do that. We hope that our white paper and our website will in some way empower them to do that. We also have a section that talks about how to reflect and assess your club's impact. I know that Georgia Tech's Energy Club was stagnating for about a period of 5 years before we revitalized it last year. We really sat down as a group of passionate individuals and said, we want to create something that's making an impact on campus. And we feel that right now there are a lot of sustainability organizations that are perhaps a little dormant on campus, and we hope to change that. Finally, we also talk about things like ideas for programmatic expansion, which relates back to our activities database, which is on the Weebly online resource. And we also go through 2 more in-depth case studies of Georgia Tech and Berkeley, and looking at really drawing from their best practices and looking to see what lessons the other energy clubs can take from both Berkeley's and ECGT's kind of experiences. So the future, we hope that we can utilize Spark Clean Energy's vast and growing network to market what we've done and really kind of disseminate this information out there. We would really like to use the Spark network to perform some more outreach. And this, I think, ties in with the other resources. So we feel that Energy Folks is another organization that has in the past really tried to network clubs together, and while we're not doing the same thing, we don't have the same goals, we feel that there are 2 resources that could really go hand in hand with each other. We also think that a lot of this fellowship, a lot of what the Spark Fellowship teams have been working on, a lot of what you've been working on, really ties in what we've been doing. I think Pat mentioned that as well. And we hope that when Spark takes us further, we hope that they'll be able to tie in with what the other fellowship teams have done. We feel that both our resources, our Google Doc and our Weebly page, shall be living resources, so that we can add to different, so that other organizations can come and add their experiences to it. And it will be really focused on organizations related to energy and sustainability. So we do hope to have some continued fellow presence. The delightful Parag Gupta will be helping us transition the project into the hands of Spark Energy. And while the rest of us might not be involved in such a capacity, we will still be around in a more tertiary role, periphery role rather. And I think with that, I'd just like to give our thanks to the Spark advisors, first of all, for really putting their time and effort into helping us shape the way we've gone. I think the Spark fellows as well. We're really grateful to you, because I know we all reached out to you individually to get some feedback about the energy landscapes at your universities. And finally, the Spark executive team, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'd like to open the floor to any questions now. Thank you.
I'm wondering, how do you identify a successful energy club at a university? What are I don't know, what do you look for? What are the metrics in terms of determining, why is Berkeley a strong club versus a less strong club?
Well, I think, you have to set a goal that's appropriate for your campus size and what the students need. At Berkeley, the goal is kind of threefold, and it's how we evaluate it. So connection, education, and collaboration. So are we doing those 3 things or not? And it's measured by the activities that support each of those 3 goals. So our connections it's our web of liaisons throughout all the departments, so we know everything that's going on campus and people are connected to each other. It's our IT tools on our website, so that people have access to job boards and calendars, and they know and can easily access a lot of different events and organizations. And then education, are we running regular programming and how many people are coming? So we track all that through Eventbrite. And then collaboration, we have a lot of different smaller research communities that regularly meet, and we take stock of all those different activities. So I think it's about setting a goal and then developing some measurable quantities I think not everything can be quantified. Some of it's qualitative, but we tried to set out in the white paper some specific questions for getting towards at least a couple quantitative metrics.
I think John brings up a great point in that you need to really focus on your core goals for each individual university, and that's something that we really highlight in our white paper, that every university is going to have different goals, every campus is going to have different goals. If you as an organized, students inherently want to be engaged, I think that's something that we can all agree on. If you're holding events that have low turnouts, that means you're probably not holding the right events. So being successful is holding the right events, getting turnout to your events. So,
yeah. A lot of it ties back into the case studies that we did. I mean, with NYU, the most popular major is really theater or the arts. So developing the strategies that mimic what the campus is was really important to that evaluation process.
So I think this white paper and this database are really great starters, but one of the most helpful things that I have done, and I say reflective things I've done, is actually to have about like a 20 to 30 minute chat with Sahas over Skype when he was doing research for your white paper. He was asking me questions about my energy club and what I thought of it and how it worked, what didn't. And that was great. It actually, to have someone sitting there and forcing me to think through some of the issues or strengths that my club had, just showed a lot of light that I don't think about meeting to meeting, right? So is there a way to build this kind of individualized consultation into something wider and more expandable for different energy leaders across the U.S.?
Everybody's looking at me. That requires a lot of infrastructure. You have to continue the project for a while in some way. If that seed is planted in some of these leaders, then sure. But getting that idea out there is very difficult. Maybe if we included that in part of our website saying, hey, you guys want to have a one-on-one consultation with the fellow. Or in other ways, maybe in the future, that would be great. I really like that idea.
Yeah, well, for Berk, we run an annual retreat where we actually go overnight somewhere, and everyone, socializes first, and then for the second part of the day, they focus on, what can we do better? And I think having that kind of space for your club where you go on basically a retreat is really helpful. And it's helpful for both building the mesh of people as well as trying to improve time over time, year over year.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is another reason why we think that Berk's setup is considered strong, quote unquote. Right? They do a lot of that reflection that's done well.
Yeah, I was just curious, did you guys find any correlation between universities that have very centralized clubs and those being, strong or, being able to achieve more of their aspirations? And then, Davis, you had mentioned at NYU, it's maybe a little bit more decentralized and there's multiple organizations doing, potentially, they have common interests, but they're potentially doing different things. So if you could just kind of talk about that a little bit, because I know, at least at my university, there's a lot of disparate things going on, even though we have a common interest.
I think it's obviously when you bring, I think one of the strengths about the Energy Club at Georgia Tech is that, right, we're all engineering majors, but we bring together electrical engineers with mechanical engineers, and I think, and with chemical engineers, and I think each of them are kind of so involved in their own research. A lot of them are grad students. It provides a good platform for discussion and interdisciplinary collaboration. I think also it provides a lot of collaboration between age groups, so undergrads and graduate students. I think that's one of the greatest things. I think through my involvement with Student Energy, through Spark, and through ECGT, I've become in touch and in contact with so many grad students, which I wouldn't have actually ever been able to do. So I think having one centralized club in that respect really kind of those benefits come up. However, at the same time, you have to look at you have to bring it back to your individual campus. Sometimes individual clubs might cater best. Maybe you need kind of niche organizations that are that cater to a specific need because that's a need that needs to be addressed. So I think once again it depends. To give you a scientist answer.
I think Mark wants to throw us off.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.